G'day folks, John Oliver here. Let's talk about something we've all experienced. That mild shock when you discover a product you love is owned by a massive corporation. You know that, wait, they own what moment? It's like finding out your local pub is secretly funded by a global beverage giant. A bit unsettling, right? Now imagine that feeling, but on a much larger scale. Picture a single company owning a mind-boggling number of brands across various sectors, from the tech you use daily to the clothes you wear. Sounds like something out of a dystopian film, doesn't it? Well, buckle up, because that's the reality we're diving into today. We're going on a wild ride through the world of conglomerates, specifically a Chinese giant that's been quietly amassing a portfolio of brands that might surprise you. This isn't just about one company's ambition. It's about understanding the shifting sands of global power and the implications of concentrated ownership. So grab a cuppa, settle in, and prepare to be amazed, maybe a little terrified, but definitely informed. Let's unravel this corporate web, shall we? Meet. Name of the Chinese conglomerate, a name you might not recognize, but trust me, their influence is anything but invisible. This Chinese behemoth has tentacles reaching across the globe, quietly acquiring a diverse range of companies, from household appliances to fashion labels. They're like the silent partner you never knew existed, pulling the strings behind the scenes. Their reach extends far beyond China, infiltrating markets in Europe, North America, and beyond. They've mastered the art of the silent takeover, often operating under the radar while strategically building their empire. But don't let their quiet demeanor fool you. This company is a force to be reckoned with. They've amassed a level of market share that would make even the most seasoned business mogul raise an eyebrow. So, how did they manage to build this global empire without setting off alarm bells? That's what we're here to uncover. Get ready to have your mind blown as we delve into the fascinating and frankly slightly unnerving world of name of the Chinese conglomerate, the company that owns, well, almost everything. Stay tuned. Now you might be thinking, what's the big deal? Companies buy other companies all the time, and you wouldn't be wrong. Mergers and acquisitions are as common in the business world as Vegemite on toast here in Australia. But here's the kicker. This isn't just your average corporate takeover spree. Name of the Chinese conglomerate. AS shopping spree has resulted in a level of market concentration that's raising eyebrows, and for good reason. Imagine a world where your phone, your fridge, and even the clothes on your back are all ultimately answerable to a single entity. That's a lot of power concentrated in one place, wouldn't you say? This kind of market dominance can stifle competition, leaving consumers with fewer choices and potentially higher prices. Think about it. If one company controls a significant chunk of the market, they're calling the shots, not you. And that's not exactly a recipe for a thriving and innovative marketplace. So while the idea of a company owning a diverse portfolio might seem harmless at first glance, the reality is far more nuanced. We're talking about potential monopolies, limited consumer choice, and a whole lot of unanswered questions. And trust me, mate, that's something worth paying attention to. But wait, there's more. The potential problems don't stop at just economic concerns. When a single entity amasses this kind of economic power, it inevitably spills over into other realms like politics and even culture. Imagine the leverage a company like name of the Chinese conglomerate could have if they decided to throw their weight around in political circles. They could influence policies, regulations, and even international relations. And that's a pretty sobering thought, regardless of your political leanings. Then there's the cultural impact. As name of the Chinese conglomerate acquires more and more brands, they're also gaining influence over the products we consume, the information we access, and ultimately, the values we're exposed to. It's a subtle form of soft power, but it's power nonetheless. So we're not just talking about the price of bread or the latest smartphone here. We're talking about the potential for one company to shape the very fabric of our lives, from the products we buy to the ideas we're exposed to. And that, my friends, is where things start to get really interesting and a little bit scary. Now you're probably wondering how, name of the Chinese conglomerate, managed to amass this impressive, albeit slightly intimidating portfolio. Well, it's a classic story of strategic acquisitions, shrewd investments, and a bit of good timing. Think of it like a game of high-stakes chess, played on a global scale, with real-world consequences. One of their key strategies has been to target companies facing financial difficulties or struggling to adapt to changing market dynamics. It's a bit like swooping in like a knight in shining armor, offering a lifeline to these businesses. But this lifeline comes with a catch, of course: ownership. They've also been known to invest heavily in promising startups, nurturing their growth and eventually absorbing them into their ever-expanding empire. It's a long game, sure, but one that's clearly paying off. They're not just buying companies, they're investing in future dominance. And let's not forget the role of the Chinese government in all of this. While, name of the Chinese conglomerate, operates independently, there's no denying the close ties between big business and the state in China. This relationship provides access to resources, influence, and a competitive edge that's hard to beat. So, they've been buying up companies left, right, and center. But it's not just about quantity, it's about strategic acquisitions that create a web of interconnected businesses. Think of it like a giant game of connect the dots, where each dot represents a brand, and the lines connecting them represent the conglomerate's influence. Let's take a look at some examples, shall we? Remember that appliance company they acquired? Well, it turns out they also own a major electronics manufacturer. See the connection? Now they control both the appliances and the components that go into them. And it doesn't stop there. That fashion label they snagged. They also own a textile factory that supplies fabrics to several other clothing brands. They're vertically integrating their businesses, creating a closed loop where they control everything from raw materials to the final product. This interconnectedness gives them an undeniable advantage. They can control costs, streamline production, and dictate terms to suppliers and retailers alike. It's a well-oiled machine designed to maximize profits and market dominance. And it's all made possible by those strategic acquisitions we talked about. Right, let's play a little game, shall we? I call it Spot the name of the Chinese conglomerate brand. Have a look around your house at the electronics, the appliances, maybe even the clothes in your wardrobe. You might be surprised at how many familiar names are hiding under the umbrella of this Chinese giant. Remember that snazzy new phone you've been eyeing? Yep, name of the Chinese conglomerate. Has a stake in that. That popular ride-sharing app you rely on. You guessed it, they've got their fingers in that pie too. It's like a game of Where's Waldo, but instead of a striped shirt, we're looking for the invisible hand of this corporate behemoth. This is where things get a bit unsettling. We're often presented with the illusion of choice in the marketplace. But when you peel back the layers, you realize that many seemingly independent brands are actually connected to a much larger entity. It's like going to a restaurant and realizing the menu is just different variations of the same 3 ingredients. So, the next time you're browsing online or strolling through the shops, take a closer look at the brands you're interacting with. You might be surprised at the connections you uncover and the realization that your choices might not be as diverse as you thought. Now, this isn't to say that name of the Chinese conglomerate is inherently evil, or that they're running some nefarious scheme to control the world. Although that would make for a cracking good movie plot, wouldn't it? But their influence is undeniable, and it's important to understand the implications. When a single entity wields this much economic power, it can have a ripple effect throughout various industries, and even on a global scale. They can influence pricing, dictate terms to suppliers, and shape consumer trends. It's like having a giant thumb on the scales of the global marketplace. And it's not just about economic control. This kind of influence can seep into other areas like media and technology. Imagine the potential for censorship or bias if a company with ties to a specific government gains control over the platforms we use to communicate and access information. It's a brave new world, folks, and we're all navigating it together. But by shedding light on the often hidden connections between brands and the conglomerates that own them, we can make more informed choices and hopefully maintain a healthy balance of power. Now, before you accuse me of being anti-China, let me be clear. This isn't about demonizing an entire country or its people. This is about recognizing the growing influence of Chinese corporations on a global scale and asking some tough questions about the implications. Name of the Chinese conglomerate. S-Rise is emblematic of China's broader economic expansion. Over the past few decades, China has transformed itself from a largely closed-off economy to a global powerhouse, investing heavily in infrastructure, technology, and yes, acquiring foreign companies. This economic ascent has naturally come with increased geopolitical clout. China is now a major player on the world stage, wielding influence in international organizations, trade agreements, and global affairs, and their economic might gives them leverage in these arenas. So, when we talk about name of the Chinese conglomerate, what's S-Reach? We're also talking about the expanding footprint of Chinese influence globally. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's something we need to be aware of and engage with thoughtfully. The rise of conglomerates like name of the Chinese conglomerate raises fundamental questions about the balance of power in a globalized world. Should corporations, particularly those with close ties to governments, wield this much influence over our lives? It's a complex issue with no easy answers. On the one hand, these companies create jobs, drive innovation, and connect consumers with goods and services from around the world. On the other hand, their dominance can stifle competition, limit consumer choice, and potentially give undue influence to certain governments. We've seen throughout history how concentrated power, whether in the hands of governments or corporations, can be a recipe for trouble. It's crucial that we maintain a healthy skepticism towards any entity, regardless of its origin, that amasses this level of influence. The future is not preordained. We have a choice in how we shape the global landscape. By shining a light on these issues, encouraging critical thinking, and demanding greater transparency and accountability, we can strive for a more equitable and democratic world. So, there you have it, the story of name of the Chinese conglomerate, the company you'd never heard of that might just be pulling the strings behind the scenes of your life. It's a tale of globalization, ambition, and the ever-evolving relationship between business and geopolitics. The key takeaway here isn't to swear off every brand associated with this Chinese giant or to descend into a spiral of anti-corporate paranoia. It's about awareness, folks. It's about understanding the forces at play in our increasingly interconnected world and asking critical questions about the concentration of power. Who are we buying from? Who benefits from our purchases? And what are the broader implications of these seemingly mundane consumer choices? These are questions worth pondering the next time you reach for your phone, your favorite beverage, or even that stylish new jacket. Because the more we know about the companies we're supporting, the better equipped we are to make informed decisions and shape a future where power is distributed a little more evenly. Well, folks, there you have it. The story of a company so vast, so influential, it's almost invisible. But now that you've peeked behind the curtain, what do you think? Does the thought of one company owning a slice of everything you touch fill you with dread? Or is it just the natural progression of globalization? This isn't just a rhetorical question, mates. We're genuinely curious to hear your thoughts. Head down to the comments section and let us know what you reckon. Have you encountered any of the brands owned by name of the Chinese conglomerate? Does this knowledge change your perception of them? And hey, while you're at it, hit that subscribe button and ding the bell for more deep dives into the shadowy corners of the corporate world. Because sometimes the truth is stranger and a lot more intertwined than fiction. Until next time, stay informed, stay curious, and for the love of Vegemite, read the label.